Welcome to the Dr. Love Show. Dr. Love, you're live.
Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Love Show. I'm Gabby Love, your love counsel and a matchmaker based in New York and Los Angeles. I'm currently working towards my PhD, and my grad work's focus is relationship satisfaction and personality types. Please stay tuned to see this episode and past episodes at gabbylove.com, and also for the new cable television episodes on public access. And thank you all and my producer Cooch for being a part of this adventure. Our episodes focus on a topic designed to sharpen your loving skill set. By sharpening best practices and effective strategies and techniques for building a healthy and vivacious love relation. This episode deals with how to keep your marriage alive. Two quotes on this topic are William Shakespeare's, "They do not love that do not show their love." And another quote by Lailah, Gifty, Akita, "Understanding of each other is the beginning of peace." Hence, it is pretty clear to any experienced lover that keeping one's relationship vibrant and alive is not a trivial matter. It is nearly impossible to be either effective in life or work and not in harmony with your love and your peace at home. I would argue that the intensity of the love at home is key to maintaining our general health, our spiritual integrity, and it arms us to deal with our world. Some believe that marriage is the place that love and passion die. Neither myself nor my guests believe this to be true. In fact, disappointment, hurt, conflict, and events and taking each other for granted and at some points sometimes are just inevitable. However, there are ways to avoid, mitigate, and recover from these ruts. Today's show is about how to keep a marriage exciting over the long term. It is about how to consciously appreciate, stimulate, and celebrate a lifelong relationship continuously until death do us part. So tonight, I have selected the hippest, most beautiful couple I know to understand today's topic. And unfortunately, Mrs. Has gotten sick today, so we just have the lovely and wonderful John Davis, who we had on before, who was so popular that we had to get back on. And unfortunately, even though it was a couple show tonight, his beautiful wife is not feeling well. And ladies, we all know what that's like when we are not feeling well. The last thing we're going to do is be on camera, no matter what live show it is. So thankfully, we have John with us. We also have Cooj, my director and producer, and an empowerment educator based in Orlando, Florida. So let's start with our lovely couple. So John, yours is a great adventurous love story. So let's get some background on you. What have you been up to in 2016, and what's going on with you these days?
Well, as you mentioned, we did, my wife and I have had an incredibly exciting last few years together. We've been living abroad for most of our marriage. We were married 7 years ago, and for the bulk of that time, we were living abroad, not only in Europe, but we actually lived in Africa. So we've just returned, and now we're setting up our life here. We're getting situated in LA, and we're shopping for a home, and it's very exciting for us. This is our next adventure together. And before, we were living as we felt international hobos, as we like to call it, and now we're finally getting settled back into where we met in Los Angeles.
I would hardly call you guys hobos by any sense of great stretch of the imagination. You guys are both so beautifully hip and luxurious and fun when all of us look at both of you from the outside in. It's really beautiful. I love it when I see beautiful, hot, beautiful couples So happy. So since no couple is immune from frustrations of relationship and disappointment, sometimes we can't always live up to our loved ones' expectations. This is a universal dilemma for all people in love. Um, how have you successfully confronted any of these challenges that all of us deal with?
Yeah, and there's always going to be difficulties. Marriage is tough, as they say. It's true. It takes a lot of work, and the thing, probably the biggest thing I would want to convey to a couple that are entering marriage or in marriage now that have been married for a while is something that we use as a tool. And one of the things we love to do, and we've done this since we met, is we sit down on a regular basis and we'll write out all our dreams, all our goals, and we'll go through them. And it's become a ritual. And we do this especially at the very beginning of the year. So on New Year's Day, every year, we go down, usually to the beach, with our journals, and we write out all the things we want to create together and manifest over the next course of the year. And then we'll review that from time to time to make sure we're on track. And that's important because when things come up, when difficulties come up, or frustrations or setbacks, we have this, agreement, this contract, this set of goals that we've agreed to go forward with together and help each other with. And it's very powerful because it gives us an anchor point. It gives us some architecture to look back on and make sure that we're on track. And without that, I think a couple could feel pretty lost. It's hard to gauge where you are and check in with one another and support one another if you don't have the things, your goals, your set of dreams that you're working on written down and planned out.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is just diligent intention and literally written out. Now, I put this in all of my work with my clients, and I'm loving listening to you say that this really has assisted the energy and the intention within your marriage. Couples, I hope everyone is really listening to that. It seems like they have a ritualistic event planning, per se, of the love of the year. At the beginning of the year, they put it in paper. They consciously make each other aware of it, and then you seem to revisit it if you feel necessary. Now, would you say it has to be revisited often, or semi-sporadically, or regularly? How often is this intention list utilized and have to be revisited?
Well, I think, for us, we write it down, we review it, pretty regularly, and we discuss things every day because we are working on these set of goals that we've set out. So I think it's a daily practice, really.
Wow.
And at least once a week, pick a time, every Sunday when we have a fun thing where we call it our CEO meeting, and every morning we get together in the living room and we get after breakfast, we sit down with our coffee and we talk about what we're going to be doing that day and that week, and it's really powerful because it feels like we're co-creating something together, that's the gift of marriage, is you actually have a partner that's there supporting you and you're co-creating this beautiful life together. And
I love that word.
If you can leverage that, it's incredibly, you're not just doubling your own personal power, I'd say you're multiplying it expansively.
Well, another reason,
if that makes sense.
Another reason that makes sense is because it's often said that we change and we don't tell our partner. And what you're doing is really vital in a relationship, which is to grow in terms of with each other and to communicate with each other during that growth, as opposed to finding yourself in a relationship down the road, and all of a sudden you don't know that person because you haven't communicated with them about the path that you're on. So I compliment you on that.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you guys have also had an additional challenge when you have lived abroad most of the marriage, and sometimes even separately in two different countries, and spending months apart at a time. And that is why I really wanted you guys being on as my married couple expert, because you guys have conquered so much that people say is an absolute relationship killer or a marriage killer, and you guys have conquered it all, so you're truly my idols in marriage. And so tell us exactly, how did your marriage survive all of the challenges that are even very different that a lot of people will even get to experience with the living in different countries and all the traveling?
Before we lived abroad, we had at least 3 years together, living together. So we had a foundation before we left and started our life abroad. And that gave us enough together that we were able to do that. I think if a couple just met and started trying to live abroad and live away from each other, it probably wouldn't work out. The other thing is that we would check in with each other constantly. I think you couldn't do what we did 15 years ago and have it be successful. I think because we were able to WhatsApp constantly, check in with each other, send each other's pictures and messages throughout the day on WhatsApp. Technology has actually helped us through this. We Skyped every morning. I would get up and Skype with her, and she'd be in Africa in a refugee camp in the middle of South Sudan, and we'd be Skyping back and forth. So that was also a key part of our ability to stay connected. And then the third thing is that we would set ideas out. You know, we'd say, let's go to Zanzibar in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and we'll have our vacation together. And that gave us time to looking forward to something to do together. And that really helped as well, as having those little rewards. You know, and it didn't have to be something as extravagant as that. You know, it could be when we were living in Ethiopia, we would just make a, you know, set, hey, on Friday we're going to go get some ice cream. Or something, you know, that we could do together that would give us both something to look forward to. Because living abroad, where we were living, oftentimes it was very difficult, the circumstances. So those three things really were essential to making it work.
What I'm hearing is, to have a successful marriage, it takes a lot of planning. A lot of planning and staying connected and planning the next connection. Very important.
Yeah.
What would you, do you have any advice to give to other married couples, or any pieces of jewels that you would like to leave us with?
Well, I think, you know, there's a lot of advice out there. I think the way I think of marriage is a lot of like the way you would approach a garden. You know, in the beginning you plant the garden, it might look beautiful, and then if you don't tend to it, if you're not out there every day watering the plants and taking care of things and pulling out the weeds, it's just going to go sideways. And that's very much how marriage is. And even if you have a beautiful garden and you've been tending to it, there can be a storm that comes in and wipes it out, and you have to get it back out there and take care of everything. So
this is the most beautiful poetry I've ever heard. I love it.
Yeah, it works a little better with metaphor. But I do think that for us, that the concept of both of us feel that, and this is why I feel that we've really had a successful time together, is that we do co-create our future together, and that's what makes it exciting. And we do that through supporting each other constantly. And she's, for example, she's starting a business right now, and I'm helping her in every way I can. And that, you know, obviously that comes through love. And I pursue art, and she supports me in that every way she can. So having that is essential. It's that feeling of loving support from one another, and it has to be mutual.
Yeah, the support is pivotal for couples to both really feel supported at all times by the other. So thank you for sharing that. Um, I've been teaching some fun classes lately, and I've been having a lot of my married couples come to my new Dr. Love's Love Games that I've been teaching over at Love headquarters in Times Square in New York City, and they're a lot of fun. They're being filmed, and they'll soon be for sale in the Love Shop at GabbyLove.com. And I've been inspired really by couples that I see really do make a marriage fun and interesting amidst all of the, you know, the down moments or the ruts that every relationship can go through. John mentioned, you know, that absolutely with longevity there are some things that are diminished, but it doesn't have to be so. How many years are you guys in now? Almost 10 together?
10 years together, 7 years married.
Wow, unbelievable, right? And you're still being, and you know, just I hear John talking about all the support and the love and the passion that's there, and I just love that. Um, So I did want to talk about some of the love games that have been teaching in class. Um, One of them I called and you can tell me what you think this as a married man. One of them that I taught just this past Wednesday was called the clothes ripper twister game. And I had these beautiful pictures of this woman ripping off like her man's like outfit, ripping his clothes off, and they were doing some sort of crazy twist. And unfortunately, I can't put my keynotes up here for this. You'll have to see that in class. But what that game was about, and I had urged partners for like after dinner one night. Just tell their partner that they've been so good that tonight they're going to play the Clothes Ripper Twister game. It's just something to add a little spice to the love life where you get to actually tell your partner how much you adore them and tell them the good things that they've done, which are sometimes so difficult for people to say. Just like, wow, you know, I really appreciated you writing that for my new resume, John. I really appreciate it. Sometimes it's just so hard for somebody to articulate a jewel of gratitude in that way. So that's been the inspiration for these love games. So I thought if your partner's been really good, tell them and announce that you're going to be playing the Clothes Ripper Twister game tonight after dinner. Get home, put the music on, and start ripping and twisting and throwing clothes everywhere, and start telling them, complimenting them as to why you're engaging in the Clothes Ripper Twister game tonight. Tell them, say, you know, I love you for helping me with my resume tonight. I love you for making coffee for me this morning. I love it. And having fun and ripping clothes off. And we know where that leads to. And then it's a much better way to end the night that way than just going to dinner, coming home, and going and doing our normal routine. Since I only have limited time on the show, I'll just go into one more game. A lot more of these are really fun, and they'll be all for sale on my website soon. And if you're in New York, you can come to my class. I'm having them once a month at Love Enterprises. But this other one is one of my favorites. I call it the Zip Car Foodie Game. And and this one was where I urge couples to get their zipping boots on, the men and the femmes, because men like boots as well. So I say get your zipping boots on, and you rent yourselves a zip car, right? We all know those little funky little zip cars, or if you're in a fun place like Miami or LA, and you can get a hot rod. But the point is to feel like you're on vacation. So on a regular weekend night or weekend day, on a regular Saturday or Sunday, You both have the time, get yourself a zipper car or a hot ride and go cruising around your town if you can pretend like you feel like you're on vacation. My new office is in Times Square, and I walk to go get coffee late at night at Times Square at 9 p.m. regularly now, and I feel like I'm on vacation. I'm like, wow, all these, when you live in New York, you avoid Times Square like there's no tomorrow. But when I appreciate it now, I'm like, these people are having fun. They're really out of their minds because they're on vacation. They don't have anything to worry about. They're having fun. There's all this light. There's all these TVs. There's everything all over Times Square. And I'm like, they're really having fun. So the point of the zipper car game is to get yourself where you think you're on vacation. If you're on the West Coast, you can drive up and down the PCH and go have lunch in Santa Barbara or one of those little towns that are so darling and unique. But if you do it in a hot rod or in some sort of zipper car with with your hair blowing in a convertible, you just feel like you're on vacation. You have your boots on. If you need to get to a beach to really feel like a tourist, then do that. This has been a game that I have couples doing this in Times Square in New York, and they have said that it's the best thing that they could possibly do with themselves on a weekend when things have just been getting stale, or it's too much about talking and what's wrong and dissecting. Get a zipper car, go have fun, and then see if there's even anything more to talk about. So anyway, so let's get to Cooge, and if I have time, I'll get into some more fun games. But Cooge, is it true that men are more interested in the chase than the catch? And if so, how is that managed after catching his favorite femme for a lifetime? And you were once married, and was it lack of spice that killed it?
No, it wasn't lack of spice that killed it. It was really, I would say, a lack of communications. Let me just bring up my picture. And but the second question you asked, the first question you asked is most intriguing, which is how do you keep the interests of men who is sort of baked in that we're interested in the chase. But it's not true necessarily that when a man gets married that has to be the end of the chase. If you incorporate the chase into the marriage, which is really a question of imagination and creativity. And you have to, as John was saying earlier, keep things alive by nurturing the garden. Like one of the most important things to nurturing the garden is just touching. In fact, one of the ways to know that your relationship or your garden is getting out of control is when there is not a lot of touching. It's a sign that your relationship is going down the hill. Also, and I really was curious, John, and I want to use this opportunity to ask you this question as well. When you're separated, what has helped a lot of people together is writing love letters back and forth. Has Skype and Hangouts, has that replaced writing letters?
Unfortunately, I think it has. But that said, we did write a lot of emails back and forth. It wasn't exactly a love letter. That would have been nice. We would create cards for each other while we were away, and when we get back, we give them to each other. I actually created cards for her, and a lot of friends actually came in on this, and we gave them to her before she went to Gabon on one trip, and she would open one every day. So there are little things that we can do, but really helpful for us was WhatsApp messages throughout the day, and they could be anything from a little emoji or, just checking in and saying hi, to how did that meeting go. It could be anything flirty and fun, but we would constantly be texting and using WhatsApp.
Dr. Love, we know that you can fall into love, but one must plan to stay there. I think that's the point of this show. And no matter how deep the love, no relationship is automatically fail-safe. No couple plans to fail. They fail to plan to keep it hot, steamy, and fresh. What are some of the creative strategies and practices you found to spice up your clients' relationships?
Well, lately this year I've been going into these love games because what I've realized with my most successful couples is that they find interesting ways to get out of the constant communicating of, obviously we have to communicate well to have a healthy relationship, but they step out of the deep analysis, per se, of how they can make things better or what's wrong or how they can fix that. And they kind of jump into more of what I call connecting, having fun. And this, I truly believe, is the answer to our work lives, if we can figure out how to have fun within it, if we can figure out in our friendships how to have fun, if we can figure out in our love lives how to keep it fun, interesting, different, and where we feel joy and happiness. So hence I just jumped into the love games, finding ways where couples can feel they can communicate by having fun and stay connected by having fun. Tangible things that we do know that work scientifically and empirically are things like Dr. Chapman's book on the 5 languages of love. This has been huge with my marriage counseling work, is really teaching partners how they love, how they feel love, and ensuring them to love their partners the way they feel love. Because something that I've seen goes so wrong is we tend to love our partners the way we feel it. And that doesn't go very far. So not all couples have a touch as a high on their love languages. In fact, I'm working with a couple right now, and the reason that they do so well is touch is actually both of theirs 5th on the line. So I give everyone this test. So the 5 ways any of us can feel a love are by touch, by quality time. That's the touch is your couple that's always touching and feeling. John and Masha, I believe, already said that they are very touchy-feely. They probably have touch up there. I myself and all of the partners that I do very well with also have touch up there. But it's not for everybody. Some people, quality time is way up there. Some people, gifts. And that usually stems from the little girl or the little guy whose mother or father got them lots of gifts when they were young. So it doesn't mean that they're materialistic. In fact, gifts is my number 2. When I was a little girl, my dad gave me a lot of gifts. He pretty much gave me anything I wanted. And so I used to feel so much love from my parental figure every time I got a gift. And so now when somebody gives me a gift, it really touches my heart and soul. But I have dated men where I give them gifts and I feel like I'm really being loving to them, but they're not necessarily feeling it. I haven't met too many men that are gift-oriented to begin with. Some of the other ways are through words of affirmation. That's your woman that needs to be told she's beautiful all the time. She needs to be told that you love her all the time. So if she's doing that to you, if you have a woman that's telling you constantly how great you look, how hot you are, how much she loves you, more than likely the way that she feels love is through words of affirmation. So turning it around on her is a great tool to use. Literally, if you have a wife or a girlfriend that's constantly giving you compliments, more than likely giving her compliments is going to go a long way. Long, long way with you. Then the last way, what did we say? Quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, touch, quality time, words, gifts, touch, and the last one is acts of service. Acts of service is that person that loves for you to open and close a door, or that's when, like, I love to do laundry for my boyfriend. I love, and I love to pick up after him. If he's not acts of service, he's not feeling that love. But if he is acts of service, then he's feeling that love. And if he's smart, then he'll start doing some acts of service for me as well. And because that's exactly how I'll feel love. So we have to remember that we tend to give love the way that we feel it, but it's not always the best conscious and smartest choice to be in a relationship doing that. We have to really be aware of how they feel their love. I have plenty of fun tests that I can give to anyone that wants to give their partner these tests to just figure out how their partner actually feels love.
Well, let me ask you another question. We just have a few more minutes. Where's the line between reinventing and revitalizing a stale relationship and crossing the line to unhealthy and high-risk behavior?
I'm not sure. My work doesn't really deal with any high-risk behavior. So I'm not really sure on that. I tend to work with couples that are relatively very healthy and relatively very happy. They just are having more issues with trying to stay connected or getting just too stale. Has been mostly what I work with. I don't deal with high-risk behavior. That's why I don't work in hospitals. I'm always going to be choosing to keep my practice outside of high-risky behavior arenas. Mm-hmm. What would you say, Cooj?
Well, I think experimentation is fine, but you have to be focused on parameters. What is comfortable? What people find comfortable?
Sure.
Some people find handcuffs comfortable. Others find that oppressive. And I think you have to have the talk because you can't just assume what the turn-ons are, both off and on, and they may change over time. Obviously, if somebody on the first date says, "Well, let's try handcuffs and blindfolds," that could be creepy.
I say high love games, which are more highly evolved and funner, a little bit of funner twist. And yeah, there could be some fun little goofy handcuffs or things in there, but overall, people can get a little bit more creative these days and bring a little bit more high life spirit. And I think that John said it best. What I loved his idea with what him and Masha do with they write out their intentions and they communicate through that way. And when you get into that kind of highly communicative skills, all of that can come out in a fun, loving, and light manner, and couples can really see what is good for both of them in unison. And so it's really all about that communication and that connecting and keeping it alive and fresh for a lifelong.
John, we just have about a minute left. What words of wisdom can you leave couples with that you found helpful?
I think Gabby's been touching on it this entire program, and that's to make it playful and make it fun. And you do that by, if you've ever watched improv, that's a great lesson because each person on the stage throws out an idea, and no idea is ever killed. The next person adds on to that idea, and I think that's really important when you're in a relationship. If somebody says, hey, let's try this, the answer is always yes, let's try it. And that allows a lot of freedom and creativity and playfulness within the relationship. And just this week, my wife said, hey, I'd love to take Spanish classes. Do you want to take them? And I hadn't even thought about taking Spanish. I said, yes, why not? Okay, let's do it. So we're taking Spanish. Later the same week, she said, hey, I've got a CPR class I need to take for my work. Do you want to take it with me? And of course the answer was yes. So now I'm taking CPR. So, but there was a great Jim Carrey movie called Yes Man where he says yes to everything. I think that's the spirit of being in a partnership with somebody.
Oh, well, you just inspired my next two love games, the Yes Love Game and the Improv. The improv love game. I'm going to have to write those this week. So awesome. Thank you so much, guys. It's always great to see you both. And if anybody would like to see more of these episodes, they are available at GabbyLove.com. And stay tuned for the new cable television tapings coming next month on public access. These shows have been being played on public access, but now we're actually going to go into the studios and film new episodes from inside the studios. And none of this would be happening if it wasn't Kuja's production and idea development of the Dr. Love Show to begin with. Please do join us. I have a client calling. I work late. But please do join us next month for the True Partner Connection and how to keep it sexy lifelong. In love always, Dr. Love.
Thank you, Gabby, and thank you, John.
Thank you both. Okay, I better get to this client.